portion of Shemos has 124 psukkim, and the siman is vayikach, and he took, and the siman is maday. These are the two simanim, the two mnemonics of the Parsha. Why are these the two mnemonics of the Parsha? So first and foremost, we find that the word vayikach is mentioned in the Parsha pertaining to the father and the mother of Moshe Rabbeinu. That after Amram separated from his wife, and Miriam came and said, you should know that you are going to give birth to the Redeemer of Israel. So vayikach, it says over there that Amram took back his wife and they begat Moshe Rabbeinu. Furthermore, we find that when Moses went down to Egypt, it says, and he took the staff of God with him for miracles, and similarly he took his wife and his children on the donkey that was later going to be used for the Mashiach to redeem the Jewish people. So we see that the word vayikach is very intertwined with the Parsha of Shemos. The second siman is maday. Maday is a name that is found in the book of Ezra, but perhaps there's another meaning to maday besides being a name of one of the Kohanim or the Levites that gave up their non-Jewish wives, their alien wives. But there's another insight to the word maday. And all of this is connected with the name of the Parsha. What is the name of the Parsha? The name of the Parsha is called Shemos. Not only is the name of the Parsha called Shemos, but the entire book is called Shemos. What is Shemos? Shemos means names. Why is the entire book of Exodus connected to names? Because the theme of the entire book of Exodus is redemption. And redemption is symbiotic with the concept of Shemos, with names. How does that work? First of all, how do we see that the book of Shemos, and primarily the Parsha of Shemos, deals with redemption? So first of all, Moshe Rabbeinu was born in the Parsha. Number two is, he's given the shalichot, he's given the emissary work to become God's messenger, to take out the Jewish people from the land of Egypt. And thirdly, we find that already he fulfills this shlichus, he fulfills this job by going down together with Aaron, and he meets Pharaoh and he says, Koyah Amar Hashem, so says Almighty God, the Shalach Asami, send my people out of Egypt. So the book of Shemos, and primarily the portion of Shemos, deals with redemption. But how does this connect with the word Shemos, which means names? We find something interesting about names. 10 people can have the same name, yet each person is different. So this one was called Rachel, and that one was called Rachel, and the third was called Rachel, and the fourth is called Rachel, and the 10th is called Rachel. They're all called Rachel. Yet this one is an intellect, and this one is very emotional, and this one is a successful business person, and that person is a great cook, and the next person is a great teacher, and the next person is a great painter. Each one has different talents. And yet, they all have the same name. It would seem that a name is very external, because you could have the same name, yet each one is doing something different. But in truth, it's just the opposite. A name represents a person's essence, because individual qualities could be different, but the essence is the same. How do we see this? When a person is preoccupied, he's doing something, very busy. They're looking into a Gemara, they're looking into a Rashi and Chumash, they're looking into their computers, they're trying to paint something beautiful. They're very preoccupied in that moment. And all of a sudden, you call them, hey, Rachel, or Yankel, or Mendel, all of a sudden they turn around. Why? Because the name is their essence. So therefore, no matter how involved they are on a level of talent or intellect or emotion, yet when you call them by their name, they turn around because that's who they are. Not only is this true for someone who is preoccupied, but even more so, one who is in a state of faint. If a person is in a state of faint and you call him by their name, say, hey Moshe, hey Yankel, Bracha, Sarah, wake up. All of a sudden, it inspires them from somewhere very deep inside, and they become awakened. Because the name represents the etzem, the essence of who they are. And this concept we find specifically by Golus and Geula, by exile and redemption. Many times in Golus and exile, the talents of the Jew and his existential experiences are very, very dormant and hidden. The love of God and the fear of God is not apparent. He seems to be in a state of faint. You can't distinguish him between someone who's not Jewish. Because this is the definition of Golus. It's a definition of concealment. But what is concealed? Only the external qualities and only the external talents. But the essence of the Jew, that Shem HaEtzem, on the contrary, is even stronger than before. And that's why we find that it says when the Jews were in Egypt, one of the things that they did not do was, even though they served idols and did many other things, like the Egyptians was, Shaloi Shinu Eshemam, they did not change their names. Because their name represents their essence. And therefore in Golus, when a Yid, even though many of his external qualities are dormant, yet we find that he does certain things, like lights the Shabbos candles, makes the Kiddush, puts on tefillin. And they lack emotion, they lack a tremendous passion. It's done seemingly robotically, but this is the essence of the soul that is now apparent and very vivid during the days of exile. And that is why we find that during the first temple and the second temple, it's true that we had many great scholars and people of great accomplishments in the knowledge of Torah and their performance of observance of mitzvos and their depth in prayer, etc., etc. But they did not have the atzmus, the essence of the soul was not revealed. And therefore the essential connection that each Jew had with God was not apparent. Yes, they were doing everything God told them to do, but there wasn't a personal relationship to have with God. During Golus, after the destruction of the first temple, after the destruction of the second temple, here we find that the etzem, the essence of the soul, became revealed. And that is why we say when Mashiach will come, the essence of the soul of every Jew is going to be very apparent. Because it worked very hard throughout the times of exile. And therefore a Jew will be on an even higher level than he was during the times of the first and second holy temples, when he only accessed his external talents. But when Mashiach will come, the essence of the soul will be truly actualized, and therefore the Jew will be on a much higher level than even previous generations during the first and second holy temples. And this concept answers a very interesting question, and that is, why did the Jews have to go down into Egypt in the first place? And the answer is because before they went down to Egypt, they only revealed their external powers, but by going down to Egypt and going through the hardships of slavery, they were able to reveal their internal essential qualities, the etzem haneshama. And similarly, when it came to the giving of the Torah on Sinai, which was a reward for going down into Egypt, We also have a similar question. Why did God need to give us the Torah on Sinai? Seemingly we know that Abraham studied the Torah, and Isaac studied the Torah, and Jacob studied the Torah. So what was the great novelty and innovation of the Torah on Sinai? So the answer is the same. That before the Torah was given, one was able to simply access the knowledge of the Torah, which is Chachmas HaTorah, or the Chachma of God. After Sinai, or during Sinai, what was revealed was the Etzem HaTorah, the essence of Torah, which we call Shemosav Shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the names of God. As the Ramban states, that the whole Torah are only the names of God. Because the name is the essence, and the essence is even higher than the intellect. And this brings us to understand the connection between the Parsha of the week and the passing of two great luminaries in Jewish history, the Rambam and the Alter Rebbe. The Rambam passed away on the 20th day of the month of Tevis, Chav Tevis, and the Alter Rebbe passed away Chav Dalet Tevis, on the 24th day of the month of Tevis. And both of them are within the same week celebrated the Histalkus, or the Hayalula of their passing. And what is the novelty of the Rambam? What was the unique contribution that the Rambam made to Jewish literature and to Jewish history? The Rambam introduced the famous book called the Yad HaChazakah. What is unique about the Yad HaChazakah? The Yad HaChazakah is unique in the sense that it takes all the laws of the Talmud, of the Babylonian Talmud, of the Jerusalem Talmud, and it compiles it together into one book called the Mishnah Torah. But how does the Rambam do this? He takes away the entire Shaki V'Tarya. He takes away all the fats. He takes away all the discussions and all the dialogue and all the anecdotes that are given in the Talmud. And he simply goes down to the actual halacha, the actual law of the Torah. And therefore he's a book of halachas, he's a book of laws, not a book of Talmud, which is a book of discussion. In other words, the Talmud represents God's intellect. It's about rationalization, it's about comprehension, it's about understanding the law, etc., which is God's intellect. But the Rambam brought it up another notch. He brought the Torah to the level of God's ratzon, to God's will, which is the essence. And that is why the Rambam says, my book is good not only for the old, but also for the young. Kakotun kagadol. Like young, like old. To learn the Talmud, you have to be older. To learn the responses of the great sages, you have to be even older. But yet the book of the Rambam was arranged in a way that even a child can learn the Rambam. Why? Because we're talking about the essence. The essence doesn't change. Intellect has distinctions, has variations, but the essence is all the same. And that is why the Rambam wrote his book in Lashon HaKodesh. He wrote it in Hebrew compared to his commentary on the Mishnah and the other books that the Rambam wrote. That was generally written in Arabic. But when it came to the Mishnah Torah, the Rambam wrote it in Lashon HaKodesh. Why? Because it's not about intellect. It's about the names of God. We know that the Gemara tells us that Elu v'Elu divrei Elikim chayim. When you have two opinions, so both of them are the word of the living God, Elokim. Elikim is the gematria of nature. But when the law is like you, then we say v'havaye imoy sha'alacha kamoisei, that the tetragrammaton is with him. God's great name is with him because the law is with him. So in the Gemara you have the concept of Elikim, you have the concept of God, which is the same gematria as nature. That alludes to intellect and dialogue. But in the Rambam, the book of Yad HaChazaka, you have the names of God alluding to the laws of God, which therefore you have the big name of God, which is V'Hashem imo yishalocha kamoisi, God is with him, and therefore the law is like him. And how does the Rambam start his book? Yisoid ha-yisoides v'amud ha-chochmes. The Rambam starts his book with 4 words. The yisoid of all yisoides, the foundation of all foundations, and the pillar of wisdom. These 4 words, the Rosh Tevis, the acronym, the first letter of these 4 words, spell out God's name. Yisoid is Yud, ha-yisoides is Hey, Ve'amur is the Vav, ha-chochma is the Hey. So you have again the 4-letter name of God's name here. So this is the Rambam, who we celebrate his passing on the 20th day of the month of Tevis, which falls out generally in this week, the week that we read the portion of Shemos. And the same is true with the Alter Rebbe. The Alter Rebbe passed away on the 24th day of the month of Tevis. And what did the Alter Rebbe accomplish? What did the Alter Rebbe bring to the forefront? The Alter Rebbe brought L'kutei Amorim. He brought the Tanya. And what is the Tanya? Similar to the Rambam that compiled all the laws of the Torah. He didn't officially originate or innovate anything. He simply put together a compilation. Here too the Alter Rebbe says you should know the Tanya, which is called the Bible of Chassidus, is not a new thing. It's not something that I am creating or innovating, but it's rather a gathering of words based on the Baal Shem Tov, and based on the Magid, and based on all the great teachers like the Shalah Kodesh and the Maral of Prague, etc., etc. But yet, just like the Rambam, who compiled all the laws of the Torah, that itself is the innovation, and the fact that he organized it in a certain way brings about new insight and new clarity. The same is true with the Alter Rebbe, that even though he calls the Tanya L'kutei Amorim, it is truly a chiddush, it is truly a novelty. And all of this is connected with the Haftorah, which also has a similar word. And that is the Haftorah says, V'atem t'luktu la'achad echad, and you shall gather together every Jew one by one. In other words, everything comes from Torah. And just like by learning the Torah of the Rambam that deals with gathering together all the laws of the Torah, then we learn the teachings of the Tanya, which gathers together the words of Chassidus. This will bring about the atem to look to gather every single Jew one by one. And this is perhaps why we find that in this week's Parsha we have Kuf, Chav, Dalit, Psukkim. The common denominator, the common letter that we find in all of these 3 words of the Rambam, which is Mekabetz, which he gathered the Torah, Shebal Peh, is the letter Kuf, is found in the word Mekabetz. The same letter Kuf is found in the word L'kutei Amorim, a gathering of talks. And the same letter Kuf is found in the word to look to gather every single Jew together. Now, even though one may ask that in Dikduk, in Jewish grammar, we know that every word requires 3 letters. It's 3 letters to have a shaydish. But the truth of the matter is there are some people who say that even 2 letters make up a word, and in truth we know that there are even words in the Torah that are made up of 1 letter. Like in the portion of Azinu. And Rashi brings down also in Sefania, chapter 3, verse number 18. So we find that in truth, there's also a root of the word that can also be 1 letter. And in this 1 letter, you really have 3 letters. Why is it that a root of the word has to have 3 letters? Because really, when God created the world through speech, He created three basic worlds, Bria, Yetzira, and Asiya, which is the world of thought, and the world of speech, and the world of action. And therefore there are three types of letters for thought, speech, and action. And therefore every word has in it three letters. But sometimes the word has only one letter. But that one letter encompasses and encapsulates all three aspects of thought, speech, and action. But the fact that it's one letter is because primarily it's talking about the thought, or it has two letters is thought and speech. And three letters would allude to the idea of thought, speech, and action. So here, the letter Kuf, which is the central letter of all of these words that deal with gathering or ingathering, is the letter Kuf. Because the letter Kuf is made up of three lines. One line that goes across, horizontal, and then two vertical lines. The horizontal line is, as you know, the concept of thought, and the two vertical lines is speech and then action. And the Kuf goes down beyond the letter Hey. It goes down beyond the baseline because it brings down the action not only into a world of holiness, but even into a world that is antithetical to holiness, and there too, it brings down the Word of God. So that is the letter Kuf. The letter Kuf alludes to the idea of compiling thought, speech, and action, compiling the written law and the oral law, compiling the secrets of Chassidus, and compiling and gathering every single Jew together. And then you have the letter Chaf, which is 20, alluding to the 20th of Tevis, the passing of the Rambam, and then Chav Dalid, which is the passing of the Alter Rebbe. All of this is found in 124, Kuf Chav Dalid. And that is Moyaday. Moyaday are the holidays. There are two great holidays in this week. Not only the holiday of going out of Egypt that God promises the Jewish people, and the ultimate holiday through the coming of Mashiach, as we speak about the donkey of Mashiach in this week's Parsha, but also the holidays of the Rambam and the holidays of the Alter Rebbe. As we know that when a holy person passes away, it's actually a very holy day and a very joyous day. As the Rashbi said, the Rabbi Shimon said, on my day of passing, I want you to celebrate. Because today I become one, B'chad Ketira, again the letter Kuf, I become one with God. So therefore, in a year of Hakel, which is also the letter Kuf, a year of ingathering, we underscore the mnemonic of this week's Parsha, which is Kuf Chav Dalid, alluding to the compilation and ingathering of all the levels of Torah and every single Jew together. And through this vayikach, God will truly take every Jew by his hand, and we will see the ultimate Geula, the ultimate redemption, and the ultimate party, and the ultimate holiday with the coming of Mashiach speedily in our days.
Amen.